Okay, so in a visit to Cambridge, we came across the character of Firdaus Kanga, who is a very famous journalist, but he too, like the famous scientist Stephen Hawking, he was also bound to a wheelchair. And somehow the fact that a person as great as Stephen Hawking also was probably even in a worse situation than he was in, gave Firdaus Kanga an added zeal for life. Okay. And that is one of the reasons why he sought out the company of Stephen Hawking. When he heard his guide mention Stephen Hawking in one of the walking tours in Cambridge. Okay. Now, Firdaus Kanga arranged a meeting with Stephen Hawking, but when they were talking, he was filled with a guilt. Why was he feeling guilty while talking to Stephen Hawking? Who can tell me? Very good, Rishabh. You have already got the book in your house. You have shown me the picture. Good. From the Big Bang to the black holes. Yes. It was for me because when I was your age or even younger than that, when I first read that book, maybe in class 7 from our school library, we didn't have internet access, or even it was there, maybe in offices, but it was not so much common. Okay, so the book was really an eye-opener for me. Yes, he thought that he was forcing Stephen Hawking to speak, and speaking for Stephen Hawking required typing words in a computer keyboard, which would be spoken out in an automated voice. Okay. And that sound was a robotic sound, and not just because of the sound, the fact that Stephen Hawking had so much to share. He had so much to share to the world, but he was bound to the wheelchair, and even because of his disease, he couldn't even speak out. Okay, he didn't have the power of speech, and that was something which made Firdaus Kanga feel very sad. Okay, and whenever he asked him any question, he felt guilty because of that, because he felt that whenever I'm trying to talk with him, it was as if I was forcing him to type out things in a keyboard, and that required a lot of physical because most of the neurons in his body was not functioning properly. He had this motor neuron disease, his nerves were not functioning properly, so doing that made it very difficult for him. Okay, and that's why he felt guilty. He was feeling guilty because every time he spoke, he forced Stephen Hawking to respond by punching buttons of computer. Yes, he was feeling guilty because of Stephen Hawkins. Oh, in real life it will be Stephen Hawkins. Okay, after the G you will put an apostrophe and S. Pathetic condition for his disease, as he was not able to speak. Correct. So you have understood why he felt guilty. Now come to the last paragraph of the page number 101. A lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. I said, I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? Okay, so chronically unhappy means perpetually unhappy. That means all the time people who have this kind of disability, people who have some kind of physical disorder because of which their movements are restricted. Now the people who are considered as normal, okay, that means people who think themselves to be normal without having any such physical problems, they sometimes or often feels that disabled people, we shouldn't use the word disabled for referring to them. Let us say people who are suffering from some kind of physical disorder which restricts their normal physical activity or normal routine, which disrupts their daily routine. And people who do not have any such problems, they often feel that this kind of people are perpetually unhappy. They are always unhappy. Okay, throughout their life they are unhappy. I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? So Firdaus Kanga told him that I, being in one such condition, even though people always think that we are unhappy with life and all, I know that it is not true. We are also happy. We are as much happy about life as they are. Okay, maybe we are sad for different reasons, but we are happy as well. Okay, so he's just making a conversation, trying to find some common ground with Stephen Hawking, and while doing so, he's referring to their common problem. Okay, and he said that, are you often laughing inside? That is, are you often, you know, laughing inside means are you often having a joke, because people always think that you are also unhappy. Maybe you are also laughing inside because your laugh cannot be, that is what it is written, laughing inside. It might mean two things. That is, you are internally laughing without letting the other person know that you are laughing. You are laughing in your mind. Okay, do you guys do that? Do you ever laugh in your mind? Suppose somebody asks you a question or somebody tells you something and you don't want to show that person that you are laughing, or you don't want to show. Yes, okay, some of you do that, right? Okay, sometimes you feel very, you know, funny, somebody seems much funny to you, but you do not want to laugh outright to their face because you don't want to offend them, or maybe you are feeling too much, something else is happening. Okay, and you are thinking about something else, and then also you are laughing inside in your head. You don't want the other persons who are around you to find it out. So we often do laugh inside, don't we? But here for Stephen Hawking, laughing inside has two perspectives. It can be like he is laughing in his mind, or the other thing can be maybe he is trying to physically laugh, but because of his particular problem he cannot laugh. Okay, because he is restricted, movement is restricted. How can he laugh? Okay, he cannot laugh, his facial muscles will not move. So okay, so Oenjula, you are a very decent girls. Whenever my friends fell off, I would laugh all right. Means when I was younger. Okay, so you should laugh all right. Don't worry, your friends won't mind. Whenever your friends fall down, you may laugh. Then help them get up. Do laugh. Okay, laughing is good for health. Anyway, so he was thinking that maybe Stephen Hawking also had the same problem. He also thought that these people, all people around us who consider that we are disabled, they feel that we are always unhappy, we are always sad, but that is not true. Okay, the thirst for knowledge which is inside them doesn't make them unhappy, it rather makes them very happy. Almost 3 minutes, so this was the question which Firdaus Kanga had asked, that are you often laughing inside? To that he responded, turn to page number 102. I find it amusing when people patronize me. Okay, that is, when people patronize me. Patronize me means, you know, treat on me as if I am their baby, as if I am to be taken care of. Okay, giving me advice or telling me don't worry, everything will be all right. That is called patronizing somebody. Okay, it has come from the word patron. Okay, like that, patronizing means to make somebody, yes, admire. Whenever anybody admires him, I find it amusing when people patronize me. So he doesn't like it when other people think so little about him, or they sometimes tell him like, you are so brave, you are so great to be sitting in a wheelchair like this. Okay, so maybe Firdaus was trying to find some kind of idea about how he responds to people who believe in that way. Okay, so what does he do? Just wait for a while. Stephen Hawking, they would treat him in a manner which is kind, which is helpful. Let me help you get up from your wheelchair. Let me help you, give you your bowl of food. Okay, that is apparently kind and that is apparently helpful. Okay, I am repeating the meaning. The meaning of patronize is to treat somebody in a way that is apparently kind and helpful, but which betrays a feeling of superiority. Betrays a feeling of superiority means in some manner the person who is trying to patronize you is as if showing that they are superior to you, maybe in their physical ability, maybe in something else. But patronizing, if whenever somebody is patronizing you, it means like even though they are helping you, you feel a little bit bad because it seems as if you need their help for surviving. They feel that way, and that was not good for Stephen Hawking. He felt very amused, okay, whenever anybody patronized me. So write the meaning of patronize as, yeah, let me write it. Okay, The meaning of patronize is, you can get it in Google itself. Treat in a way that is kind. Wait. Why don't treat somebody in a way, okay, Chandranath has given it, correct, that is exactly the meaning. So you see, you guys are much more technically efficient than I am, so you can find it out much faster than me. Okay, this is the meaning of patronize, exactly the meaning that I was looking for. The meaning is that they used to patronize him, they used to treat him as if he needed, tell me till which, means when does our class end, how much time do we have left? 3:30. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Let us do as much as possible. Okay, so this is the meaning of patronize. That means to make somebody feel a little bit inferior about themselves by helping them or by treating them in a kind manner. So whoever came to sit with him, whoever used to come in contact with Stephen Hawking, sometimes they would treat him in a patronizing manner, and that was something which amused Stephen Hawking. He didn't take insult from it, but he was amused because he felt that he could do without their help. And do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? So this is what Firdaus is saying, that do you find it annoying? Annoying means, you know, irritating. Do you get disturbed? Do you get annoyed when somebody like me comes and asks you so many questions? Because you see, journalists, they are meant to ask you questions. They are very probing. Okay, probing means they are always asking you questions about your life, interfering in your personal affairs. For obviously not in ours, but those people who are considered as celebrities or famous people. Okay. Yes. Yes. Right, Rishabh. Very good. Okay. So, the answer flashed. Yes. Then he smiled his one-way smile and I knew. Okay. So, Stephen Hawking typed, yes, I get annoyed when people like you come and ask me so many questions and I have to type away my answers. I do get annoyed. But then he smiled in his way. Have you seen, if you have seen any video of Stephen Hawking, you will see that he has a lopsided smile, okay. Kind of a little mocking, a little fun kind of smile he has. So he smiled in that manner and I knew, without being sentimental or silly, that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. Okay, beautiful because of his soul, because of the brilliant mind that he had. He was such an appealing personality. Meaning of annoying is irritating, somebody who is disturbing. Okay, here it means that whenever any journalists or any person, reporters came to Stephen Hawking to take an interview with him, did he get disturbed? Did he get irritated because of that? So the answer is yes, he did. Okay, he did get annoyed. But he also said that with a smile. Okay, he also said that with a smile. Then a first glimpse of him is shocking because he is like a still photograph. Yes, this is very important. Okay, mark this place. He is like a still photograph. Think back on why is it being said by the author and tell it to me. Answer me. Why do you think it is written that he is like a still photograph? As if all those pictures of him in magazines and newspapers have turned three-dimensional. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes which can speak still, and they are saying something huge and urgent. It is hard to tell what, but you are shaken because you have seen something you have never thought you could be seen. You never thought could be seen. Okay, so whenever, yes, correct. So because of his disease, what happened? The entire nervous system of his body was disrupted, and the nerves control our movement. The motor neurons, they control our movement. And he couldn't move anything, not much. Maybe a little bit of his fingers he could move, okay, and a little muscle in his cheek he could move, because he could smile a little bit, we can see that, he could twitch his face, and it was generally very fast disintegrating. His body was not slowly but very fast, it was getting disintegrated. None of the neurons was working or functioning properly. So all you could see was like a still photograph, something which doesn't move. Only it was a three-dimensional figure, because he was the man himself. And then if you look closer, yes, referred to as a still photograph, because he can't move for his disease, right? So that is what your impression will be if you see him. That is what Firdaus Kanga has written. And then you see the head shrunk, twisted sideways into a slump. Slump means like this, okay, this is called slump, getting your head in this manner. Means not, the shoulders are not straight, your neck has become as if it has just gone inside your shoulders. He couldn't hold his head high, okay, because of his disease he couldn't do it. And then you also see that the torso, that is the front portion, the abdomen portion of his body, it was also shrunk in his pale blue shirt. The torso was also shrunk because it had no movement. The muscles, without any movement, the muscles will gradually shrink, right? And his body was also shrinking. The legs, the wasted legs because his legs couldn't move, okay, that's why wasted. He couldn't move his legs, he couldn't walk about, so his legs were also wasted. You look at his eyes which can speak still, and they are saying something huge and certain. And even though his voice, there wasn't any voice left in him, he couldn't speak using his mouth, but if you look at his eyes, you can see that they are still speaking, and they are speaking something urgent, something huge, something very you know, all the time he is alert, he is talking of something which is important. All the time he is referring to something important, and his eyes will give you a window into his mind which was always vibrant. So as if inside of his body there was always an active volcano inside him, but somehow because of the still body parts, exterior of his body was so much like a stone statue, he couldn't speak. Okay, but you can see through his eyes that there's a lot of things which he wanted to convey, but because of his disease he couldn't. Then it is written, but you are shaken because you have seen something you never thought could be seen. But just looking at his eyes, you are shaken, okay, you are moved. You are moved. Why? Because you feel as if you feel very much shaken, as if somebody had come and shook you, as if you can understand that there's something inside him which is so beautiful and which is so you know, powerful, and something which you never thought you can see in a human, you saw it in his eyes. Okay, now this is the beauty of Firdaus Kanga's language. If you read anything else by him, you will find out how nicely he portrays characters, right? So today I am going to stop our text here till scene. Okay, next day I am going to continue. Not much is left, maybe one more class will be required. Okay students, bye. Thank you students.